Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Investing Bros Wednesday morning live show. It is September 25th, and today we're going to be talking about a whole lot. You're going to want to take a listen to the entire show. It's not going to be crazy long, but we are going to talk about pullbacks coming in crypto. Why? Because some of the charts are flashing some sell signals that we did discuss with our trading group yesterday, but today we're going to let you in the YouTube community get in on some of the action. Also, some big news coming from the SEC. Is there a civil war within the SEC? I did just put a tweet out. Oh, I put it down. I tweeted at George from Cryptos R Us because, of course, he handles the influencer fighting with Karate Combat. What if we got a fight between Gary Gensler and Hester Peirce? I would love to see it, but if you want to know why I think a fight could be a brewing, you got to watch the entire show. Make sure to smash the like button and hit subscribe if you're excited for today's episode. But with that said, first, we got to roll the intro. There we go. T-Shroom, how you doing this morning?
Better than I deserve, Tim. You might be looking at my hat thinking, T-Shroom's got a new hat. It says Bitcoin Propaganda Department. Yes, this is the hat that we got from, I think you got one of these too, from Bitcoin 2024 up in Nashville, Tennessee. What a fantastic time. We met so many great people.
I didn't collect as many hats as you did. You definitely came home with probably 7 new hats, and I did not do that. But good for you. I like the hat. Chat here. Vincent Q. I'm going to read some chat for a second before we dive into the show. Vincent Q says, lately, why you so, and I'm going to say dang, even though that's not the word he uses for a family-friendly show, in case there's kids in the room. Why are you so dang negative about the market, man? Don't spread the fear, dude. Vincent Q, I hear you. I would say I disagree with the fact that I've been extremely negative. I've been realistic, but I've also been extremely optimistic about the longer term effects. I guess the way you put me is I'm in a short term, more bearish mood right now, meaning one more pullback just to kind of match what we've seen for the last couple of months. But I'm still extremely optimistic on the long term future. I've told people over and over again, do not sell your crypto. The bull market's still here, but opportunity to buy at a cheaper price, I think, is still coming. And, you know, at the end of the day, here's the other thing. Would you rather me be positive and tell you guys it's going up, but not personally believe that, and then we watch the charts actually fall to the downside? Or would you rather hear the truth and be able to process it to be able to make the right decisions? I myself would prefer someone to do the latter, but that's up to you guys. I'm sure there's lots of channels out there that do nothing but pump positivity and optimism about the markets nonstop. You can go find them. Go subscribe. Again, there's a lot of them out there. T-Shroom, what about you? Do you think we're being just a little too negative recently?
No, I mean, if you look at the charts, I think it's a real possibility that we have a turnaround here. That doesn't mean that we go back down to 57, right? That's,
yeah.
You know, we could, right? But I think right now it's likely that we have a pullback. We test where the support is, because I mean, there's a good argument to be made that we just pushed higher. We did not put in a new high from the previous high back in August, mid-August, late August. So, you know, that's not great. That's not as bullish as it could be. How could it be more bullish? Is if we put in a new high from August 25th. We didn't. So I think but that doesn't mean all hope is lost. In fact, I think right now the bulls are gaining steam, gaining momentum. And I think we'll find some support maybe down at 60. I think that makes logical sense. Somewhere in 60, might be a little lower, might be a little higher. And then we push higher, right? I think that's what makes the most sense. A push higher from here, just going straight up on kind of not really a ton of news. There's some news. There's definitely some bullish news, right? But on kind of fumes of bullish news, that to me indicates that we might have a bigger drop down to the downside. If we get rejected at 70,000, that downtrending line of resistance. So that's kind of what I'm tracking, Tim. But let's dive deeper. Let's look at the bubbles.
Well,
let's look at the charts.
Before that, I was going to ask you one more thing, and then we're going to get into the bubbles. But this is still all very useful for information.
Sure.
A friend of the channel, a good friend of ours, Gary Cardone, posted on X, I believe this morning or late last night. I don't know if you saw it. He is predicting, which these are hard to predict, but he's predicting that there will be some form of a black swan event in the next couple of weeks that does take price down to 57. What do you think he might be alluding to? Do you think, black swans, you can't predict them. That's the whole point of a black swan. But what would be the most likely black swan event, in your opinion, that he could be alluding to?
I don't know. You can't predict them. It's tough. I
Can't.
mean, maybe. I mean, the yen carry trade seems to be intact after this last Bank of Japan decision. I don't know what it would be. By definition, a black swan is unknown, but maybe something happening, in Asia. I don't know. I don't know.
I think the most likely, because with them cutting rates now across the world, it's going to get a little easier on businesses in the longer term to borrow and do things. But let's not act like a 50 basis point cut had immediate impact on everything. Mm-hmm. Could we potentially see jobless claims and unemployment take a nice skyrocket? To me, I think that would be the most likely outcome of, and it's not really a black swan event in the same way as COVID. It would just mean a couple days or week or two of bearish action. But my opinion is I think it'd be economy related, probably job related, but we're going to have to wait and see. Again, information on that comes out, I think, tomorrow. We're going to be shooting a video tomorrow morning, not a live stream, but it'll go out a little later than 9 a.m. because I'm going to get all that information, that economic data in the morning, shoot a video. We'll probably put it out by 9:30 to 10 o'clock at the latest. But let's do it. Let's do bubbles now, T-Shirt. Let's get in here and evaluate the markets. Despite the fact that there's going to be, in my personal opinion, I think a pullback's coming today. One of the reasons why is we've had a lot of consecutive days of a lot of green bubbles, with the exception today of Chile. Chile down 20%. Say up 22% right here. Still a lot of green. You got Sui up 10%. Hex had a nice rebound. Tia's up 4.6. PopCat right here, 9.7. But we've had a lot of green here more recently, and that's a good thing. But unless there's a major catalyst, and we haven't set that higher high we need to set on a lot of these coins, and there's something we're about to take a look at on the chart with several coins that is suggesting a little cool-off should be coming to the markets. I want to prepare everyone for that, but I'll just start off by saying green bubbles. I love green bubbles. But especially when you see several consecutive green bubbles in a row, even if we don't drop down to new lows, it's time for some of these projects that have been doing amazing over the last couple of days to take a little bit of cool off, to take their profits, cool back down, at the very least at a higher low. But at the worst, this little rally is over and we're correcting the downside. Let's go ahead and take a look at the charts and see what is happening. For the charts today, I'm going to be brief per chart, but we're going to go through a lot of them. We're going to do a lot of technical analysis this morning, kind of in speed mode. But I want to start off by, we're here on the 4-hour chart today. This is something we planned and told our trading community to keep an eye on yesterday. We had some winning trades yesterday. We had some losing trades yesterday. Today, though, I think a lot of those trades finally are coming to fruition. That will make some good profit for a lot of people out there taking it. But I want you to pay attention to the peaks we had here. We had a peak back on the 22nd and a peak yesterday, the 22nd and the 24th, a slightly higher high in this peak. Let's take a look, though, at what the oscillators are saying here. Bitcoin's 4-hour chart. I'm on the right one right here. Boom. Let's go. All right. So at the moment, if you take a look at our oscillators, you're going to notice that in that same time frame, we set a higher high in price action. Our RSI set a lower high. This is what we call bearish divergence, but it wasn't the only one. If you come back over here and you take a look at the MACD, you could look at two different peaks and levels and say, man, we did this twice. Either direction you look at, that's a lower high compared to that price action. This is strong bearish divergence. Now, I will say, depending on what time frame or what chart you're looking at here, it did flash away from us. We got a sell signal this morning on the daily chart. And what I mean by that is you can see here very clearly, we do have a nice bearish momentum dot right there. We have negative money flow right here. This morning, it went away, but we had a red reversal dot in play as well. So the negativity of the price action has caused that dot to go away for some reason. But because of that symbol right there, and even what we have with these two negatives, this is kind of what we were watching for yesterday for Bitcoin to be a sell signal. I showed you guys the bearish divergence on the other oscillators. Now we're looking at Bitcoin, and we're seeing a sell signal as well. This should send price back down here towards 62,000. And then we're gonna do a lot faster on the other ones, but take a look right here on the liquidations chart. If we refresh this, I'm gonna hit this button here, actually. This would be better. If you refresh this, we've got a lot of liquidations. Let's actually go to the daily chart. I think it's gonna give me more, because we have some liquidity up above us. There we go. We have some bright, long liquidity levels that bring us down to roughly 62,000, maybe even a little lower. That's what I'm kind of watching right now. With these sell signals on the 4-hour chart, potentially making a move to the downside to get rid of all of this liquidity before that move back to the upside is what is on the table for today. All right, so that was our kind of impactful. We talked about the biggest crypto in the world. That is Bitcoin. We're looking at a pullback at least towards 62,100, back towards this orange level of support. If you show my chart here really quickly, T-Shrimp, so people can see that orange line of support, that's what we're talking about right there. Let's go through some other coins that are flashing sell signals on the 4-hour chart. For the first one, Solana. Now, Solana broke out of a symmetrical triangle pattern. We said in a best case scenario, we would make a rally up here towards 173 if this bull flag or bull pennant pattern ends up playing out. But there is some concern that I have at the moment here for Solana. Let's take a look at our oscillator, and you will see here, not only do we have the bearish divergence, again, these lower highs in the oscillators on all three oscillators, while we set higher highs in price action, but even more specifically, take a look at what we have going on here, guys. Red reversal right there. Bearish momentum dot with a lower high, bearish divergence, and of course, that negative money flow. That right there is our sell signal on the 4-hour chart for Solana. Where should we be looking for a pullback to come to? Well, for that one, you're coming back down to the smart trail. It's slightly rising to the upside, so I'm going to do a little bit of a move where I say I'm going to anticipate this smart trail to come up while we're dipping down towards it. We got a stop loss right here at 144. That is going to be my level to keep an eye on for Solana price to pull back to at the very least. And then it's about evaluating, all right, did we get our major pullback? Do we start to see buy signals on lower time frames? Either way, Solana, with that sell signal this morning, not necessarily looking like we have further bullish price action coming, but it's not the only one. Let's keep moving on here. Someone in chat just said, can you do ADA TA? Absolutely, I can do ADA TA. ADA at the moment wrestling with a former, well, this is actually a breakout. Don't pay attention to orange line. That's a breakout prediction based off of a much larger falling wedge pattern. So at the moment, let's get rid of that line so no one thinks it's a trend line. Cardano with a very nice run up here over the last couple of days, peaking back up at 39 cents. We've talked very heavily. It's not quite there yet, but if we could get up here and get above 40 cents, we would see a higher high on Cardano. That would be amazing. Problem is, just like I told you with these other coins, take a look at what is happening on our oscillator. You got here actually multiple reversal dots more recently. We have a reversal dot, a reversal triangle. We have a bearish momentum indicator right there, and we have negative money flow. If you zoom on in there, you will see the money flow just crossed below the bullish threshold, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the official sell signal. To add into it, we also have a small amount of excessive buyers that came into the space. They are now gone. Now, we don't have necessarily the bearish divergence we had with the other ones. In this case, these higher highs on the oscillators match the higher highs in the price action, but the sell signal on Lux Algo would in fact say we should make a pullback back down towards 36 cents before any major rally returns. To me, in case people are wondering, Tim, are you long-term bearish on Cardano? As long as we stay above this red line, this falling wedge red line right here, this still should make a bigger breakout up back, I think, towards 53 cents is what we have. But it could drop all the way back to 34 cents, and we're still okay in a longer-term bullish perspective. But right now, again, that 4-hour chart is telling us selling is probably coming here for Cardano. Let's keep moving on. Let's take a look at ICP. Again, ICP making some nice moves to the upside. Bearish divergence, though, here on the 4-hour chart, and you can see Luxago actually indicates that very cleanly with that red line. What are we looking at? We're looking at the peak from back here on September 11th to this morning's peak or late last night's peak. That is a higher high in price action, and every single oscillator showing a lower high. Well, it's not just bearish divergence. It's also this sell signal right here. Red reversal, triangle, gray momentum dot, bearish momentum dot, and there you go. The money flow is going to the downside. These are all things that say ICP is ready to make a little bit of cool off. Again, we're looking around 866, back to the blue smart trail on the 4-hour chart. This is a trading strategy. In case anyone's wondering, this is a trading strategy that has been working for the bros community. When we get the confirmation, over 90% of our trades are closing in profit. This is something that you absolutely should be paying attention to. Let's keep moving on, though. I told you speed round. We got a lot of coins here. I'm going to go a little faster here. Stacks does not have the bearish divergence. It doesn't have the opposite trend of the oscillators, but it does have the sell signal this morning. Red reversal, bearish momentum, negative money flow, excessive buyers left the space. Where are we looking at for stacks? Well, we got some stop losses and order blocks right in the area of a $1.81 target. I think that pullback should be happening here today. Keep moving on. Just go a couple more here. I know I'm being repetitive, but I think a lot of you are going to want this. Jasmine coin, I'll be a little quicker. Selling signals happening, oversold, overbought, flashing dramatically on the RSI. Red reversal, bearish momentum, negative money flow. Excessive buyers are leaving. Look for a target pullback area around 21.8 cents here on Jasmine coin. Let's keep going on XRP, giving us a sell signal this morning. Now, it didn't give us a red reversal dot, or that red reversal dot went away similar to Bitcoin, but they still have the negative money flow and negative momentum. And we have a level of back at our support. 57 cents for XRP would be a level to keep an eye on. There is a take profit sell signal right now at the lower end at 55 cents. And that smart trail is trailing to the downside. So 55 cents as well is something to watch for XRP. But conservatively, if you're looking for a short, 57 cents is a great area to look for some take profit. And again, 90% probability of being correct when you use this strategy. Let's do the last one that I have planned here, but I'm going to tell you guys, you can take this same strategy and apply it to several altcoins this morning. TIA. Now, TIA, I'm going to spend a little more time here. Let's start with being a little positive. Before I tell you the bad news, remember that we've been tracking TIA from a couple days ago. We are in an inverse head and shoulders pattern. A small pullback on TIA is A-okay. It's going to give you a breakout target for TIA that potentially during the next couple of weeks, maybe next couple of months, we could see a major breakout on TIA going all the way back up above $11. That being said, that's the longer term perspective. That's like what we look at for the next couple of weeks, maybe next month or two. On the short term, today, we do have ourselves a nice sell signal. We have clear bearish divergence on all of our oscillators. We have that red reversal dot, bearish momentum, and negative money flow. This is a sell signal, and this would say we should send the price of TIA probably back down here towards $5.70, somewhere in that range. This smart trail is rising, so monitor this if you enter this trade. But for right now, that is a level to keep an eye on. Really quickly, before I move on, I do see someone in chat. I see multiple people asking, what about Chainlink? I went over Chainlink yesterday. Chainlink is not getting this sell signal unless it changed. When I was doing my analysis this morning, we have a red reversal, and technically that money flow is sideways right now, but it's not negative, and we're not getting the reversal dot just yet. We also, while we had bearish divergence back here on September 20th, this most recent move is not necessarily saying that we're reversing. I want to make sure I understand. I'm not saying that Chainlink won't reverse. In fact, while I'm looking at hitting some resistance levels right now in our red cloud here on the 4-hour chart, I'm seeing really overextended oscillators here, getting into territories where we've reversed in the past. We're 72% overbought. There absolutely is a case to say that Chainlink would reverse, but with us not having an official sell signal, when I get that sell signal, especially this Luxaga one, remember I said 90% chance of this working out. On Chainlink, while I feel like if you told me, Tim, you have to choose to either long or short Chainlink this morning, I'm probably going with a short. I'm not as confident about a Chainlink short as I am the rest of the coins that we just went through because we're not seeing an official flash of a sell signal on this indicator. We see that there's technically room to the upside for a take profit closer towards $13 still on the table for Solana. And until I get that sell signal, I'm not operating in a longer term short like I am with these other coins. We'll monitor that. Again, our trading group, I will make sure if something changes on Chainlink, I will update you guys immediately. But for now, Chainlink is not under a sell signal. T-Shroom, I tried to go as fast. We covered a lot of ground there, right? I feel like I really did keep it brief for all those points. But it's 9:19, and we haven't even gotten to some of our news stories. What do you got for us this morning in the way of news?
All right, Tim. Well, the news today is brought to you all by our trading community. Who's making all kinds of strides, seeing a lot of individuals grow in their financial freedom and trading skills and confidence in trading. You can get it all here at the Brolux membership link down in the description of this video that you're watching right there. All right, let's jump into our news. We're going to start with some bullish news. In fact, pretty much all of today's news is bullish news.
Nice.
BlackRock's ETF saw 99 million in inflows yesterday, the highest in a month. We've been tracking this one pretty closely. You can see, you may be getting familiar with this chart here. The histograms that matter are all the present ones here. We've only had 2 red histograms in 7-8 days here. So very, very bullish. These are business days, not including the weekend, going back to September 9th. So since the 9th, we've had a lot of green days, and it doesn't seem like it's showing any signs of stopping. So we got 2 histograms, one that looks slightly lower than the previous one out here on the weekly, and then the fresh histogram that we're in right now has the potential to keep the ball rolling. This is looking bullish. Right, our last attempt at multi-week green inflows was kind of a failure. It fizzled out too quickly. It went up too fast, and then it fizzled out too quickly, and we had to have 2 more red weeks. But the good news is things are moving in the positive direction from an ETF flow standpoint. Bitcoin is a scarce global decentralized non-sovereign asset, BlackRock, head of digital assets, said. Let's take a look, Tim. Let's take a listen.
The sell when you think about the retail investor base that can get into this. If you're trying to tell them it's digital gold, yet the volatility is still so high, and many people don't understand exactly what it is at the end of the day. Is it something that will eventually be used as more payment methods moving forward across different parts of the world? Is it something that you hold and never sell, right? How do you then make that case to a generation of people who have not gotten into this asset?
Sure. Well, when you think about Bitcoin, we think of it primarily as an emerging global monetary alternative, right? It is a scarce, global, decentralized, non-sovereign asset. And it is an asset which has no country-specific risk, has no traditional counterparty risk. So these are interesting properties when you think of it from an investment perspective, particularly in a world where there's growing concerns over money printing, currency debasement risks, political, fiscal, sustainability challenges in the U.S. or elsewhere. And so that resonates, frankly, with a lot of investors. It goes back to what we talked about earlier with the risk-on piece. It confuses investors when people talk about it as risk-on, because based on the properties that I just described, you would think of it as risk-off. And that's where I think
it has a marketing problem.
So you could say that. And so, the reality is there's probably 2 or 3 things a year that happen typically that actually impact the fundamental value of Bitcoin. This year, I would argue there's been 4. But that makes it hard to write daily stories, right? And so you see this instinct to kind of point to whatever's happening in equities or unemployment or jobs numbers or manufacturing, which really has no connection to Bitcoin.
Interesting. An interesting take there from BlackRock's head of digital assets, calling it scarce, calling it decentralized, non-sovereign, really hitting on that point that no country can control it. Very interesting. What are your thoughts here, Tim?
I'm interested what the 4th thing he thinks is the major impact, right? I can think of 3 off the top of my head, but I'm really rattling to find, because he didn't say what the 4 were. So to me, let's just come in order. Obviously, back in January, we get the ETF. Right. That's massive. That's got to be a major impact on the future Bitcoin. The halving event happened in April. That's number 2. And then I'm not going to be able to put a date necessarily on the 3rd one, but ultimately what the economy looks like it's doing, is going to have the 3rd major impact on Bitcoin. What's the 4th?
The Fed
major
cut. The rate cut.
But I'm okay. Maybe I'm being too broad with my 3rd by saying it encapsulates a lot of economic details. So the Fed cut has to do with how the economy is doing. So that's why I wrapped up there. Maybe he's talking about like a
Germany selling. Germany selling all at one point was pretty impactful. That's for sure.
That doesn't change. But what he said was there's 2 things that happen a year that impact Bitcoin fundamentally this year. 4.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Germany issue impacted it fundamentally?
The price? No, not fundamentally.
Maybe that's it.
I mean, neither did the Fed cuts. It's modifying the liquidity environment, the macro environment around Bitcoin. Yeah.
A to Ace makes a good point. So I'm thinking in the past tense, presidential election. You're right. You're absolutely right. There it is. That's the 4th one, more than likely. Presidential election. I don't know why that skipped. There we go. Yeah. Listen, I'm an idiot. We're gonna move on.
There also there were some Middle Eastern tensions that pulled back every risk asset back when.
Yeah, that falls under the economic issue though. Like the only thing about no, hold on. Well, let's pause here. You can disagree. Let me explain my point. and we'll have a nice little healthy debate here.
The
reason why wars would fall into the economy is because what's the problem with wars if we're not involved in the war, right? So we have a war right now in Europe. We have a war right now in the Middle East. While we have allies that are involved there, we are not officially putting American citizens into these conflicts, at least to my knowledge, at least what they tell us. What is the impact of wars? Why does that affect the price of any asset? Because it has impact on our economics. It has impact on the oil prices. It has impact on trade prices. That all comes back to economy. Until we actually go into the war, and then you can still make an argument that going into a war, what we're talking about here is price action. We're talking about our assets. It would be an economic concern as to why a war would impact the price of everything. So that's my argument. Why do you disagree? Why do you say that war and economy are different?
I suppose it's semantic. It's just categorical for me. I think that, yes, both can impact the price of an asset like Bitcoin, right? If you look at the price of a share of Northrop Grumman, right, or Lockheed Martin, you might actually see upside during war. So, I think that war it's a different impact. It can be similar at times, but has a different impact than, a jobs number a print or a Fed rate decision. I see what you're saying. Wars can affect the economy, but everything affects the economy. The economy is this plane that is constantly being impacted, and then the ripples of which goes on to impact, society and culture, and sometimes, can escalate into war if the economy gets bad enough. But I would say it's pretty semantics.
AD is saying there are Americans in Ukraine, and there might be Americans in Ukraine. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Fact check me, ABC. Americans have not been involved in conflict. I think the minute an American fires upon Russia, we got a major problem. We can have Americans in a war zone that are not participating in war. Those are two separate things. But again, correct me if I'm wrong. Has an American actually been involved in the war against Russia? And that's new information for me. Maybe. Teacher, we got more, though. We got more. Again, I want to go ahead and get to what I'm most excited about for this show is we heard from Hester Peirce.
That's right.
One of the SEC chairmen yesterday. And she is staunchly saying the opposite of what we've heard from Gary Gensler. Let's roll that clip.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Commissioner Peirce, I'd like to pose the same question to you. It's market concentration. Is that a risk from SOB 121?
It is a risk, and the accounting raises real questions about whether this is protective of investors or not. And so that's why I think we need to go out with a real process to try to figure this out.
At the end of the day, the SEC has to read the room. And the entire House of Representatives voted on this, and a majority of members of the House rebuked SOB 121, and the Senate, led by the opposing party, they passed it with 60 votes, including the majority leader. This is not a good look for the SEC. This should go away. This is bad policy. With that, I yield back. And
some context for that clip, Gary Gensler had kind of continued to promote it there in that congressional hearing again and again, saying that that accounting rule was good. And, obviously as we sit here, we're pretty biased for Bitcoin, right, for digital assets. However, we would disagree with Gary, and we would agree with Hester Peirce. But Tim, it seems as though Hester is kind of being very vocal right now. She's been vocal in the past, but right now she's choosing to be very vocal. She has this opportunity. Could she potentially know something about the inner workings of Washington and the timing here to kind of make her presence known and take this pretty slighted opinion against Gary Gensler? Do you think there's a chance that she's ready to replace him?
Yeah, I think she's definitely putting herself in position to do so should the right people in her mind get put into office and Gary Gensler's fired day one. Obviously, we're talking about Donald Trump has vocally said it was his best part of his Bitcoin conference speech that he would fire Gary Gensler day one. Hester Peirce knows that. I think she's putting herself in position. She's clearly going against – I don't know actually how it works. I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know if Gary's her boss – in terms of if he was her boss, he could theoretically fire her. So I don't know if an issue of he's a boss or a leader. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe he is her boss. She's clearly challenging her leader. Actually. Like him being the head of the SEC, he's above her on the totem pole. I just don't know if he could fire her.
I guess
she is saying, okay.
Well, I guess it's different with boards. So boards are not in and of themselves they're not staff and. Right, they're not employees; they're board members. It's kind of a third title if owners, board members, and sometimes and employees. Sometimes they can overlap. I think when you're on a board, you're kind of seen as an equal. There's probably some people laughing at that statement now, but as a regulator at a regulatory level, obviously Gary is the leader. He's the chairman of the SEC, but she's a board member. And she has a vote on many different issues. And so, I think he also he seems like somebody who kind of appreciates the concept of the principle of diversity of opinion. I know that I say that and some people might be laughing, but I think he likes to have that at least feigned to the public, at least feigned to the banks that he regulates. So, because if people give him staunch criticism, he can say, "Well, look at our board. There's diversity of opinion," and that he can get away with stuff like that.
Meek Vision say there's no board in the SEC. We're not saying there's officially a board. It's saying it operates like one in the sense of they were all appointed. They don't have control over each other as individuals, but there is a clear leader in the room, and that would be Gary Gensler. And again, this isn't new. Anyone who's just tuning in, maybe you haven't been paying attention to crypto and the SEC for a long time, Hester Peirce has been undermining and challenging Gary Gensler's takes for years now. I think it's escalating now to where, it's very clearly Gary Gensler was asked a question yesterday or the day before. I can't remember what day, probably the day before. And he emphatically said no. She was asked the exact same question and emphatically said yes, right? We've got a little bit of a split here between not board members, but chairman members of the SEC. Commissioners of the SEC. Thank you for your question. This is something that I think is very, very fascinating. I told you guys at the beginning of the show, I tweeted at George saying, man, should we get a karate combat fight between the two of them? Winner takes the SEC. You might say you're going to put your money on Gary Gensler. I don't know. He's not a very large person. Maybe Hester could take him.
I think Hester could definitely take him. That's what one would hope. All right, moving along here. We've actually got another clip from Hester. So let's take a look. Let's take a listen to that.
I think what's happening is that we're trying to be ambiguous because the legal precision carries with it real implications. And this is why people have been coming to us and saying we need clarity. Is the token itself a security? Or is it part of an investment contract? Is it being sold together with an investment contract? If it is, what is that investment contract and how long does it track along with the token? By using imprecise language, we've been able to sort of suggest that the token itself is a security apart from that investment contract, which has implications for secondary sales. It has implications for who can list it. And I think this is absolutely, we've fallen down on our duty as a regulator not to be precise. And so tucking into a footnote that, yes, we admit that now actually the token itself is not a security, that's something that we should have admitted long ago and then started wrestling with the difficult questions.
Right. So,
they deal with a lot of complexity there, but she's kind of saying the important part right there, which is that they should have admitted it wasn't a security. Somebody like Hester Peirce has probably been sitting on her hands, maybe not out of fear, but out of respect for the process. And she's been vocal. It's not like she's been completely silent on these issues.
But I was gonna say real quick. Let me challenge that. She's been extremely vocal. She said a long time ago about XRP. I'm not talking about like 2 weeks ago, a month ago. Back in 2023, she vocalized she had no idea why the case was still going on, that she felt like it had been over. That's why people have been so like dragging the ball and chain behind them on XRP, thinking it's going to be bullish, it's going to be bullish, it's going to be bullish. Even people from the SEC like Hester Peirce have been saying for a while, there's really no reason this case is still open. It's not a security. She's pretty much been saying that this whole time. Again, I see this whole thing as her challenging and pretty much in a way that she can't come out and say the words Gary Gensler has failed as chairman of the SEC. But everything she is saying in this hearing is implying, if you read between the lines, Gary Gensler has no idea what he's doing. The SEC is not what it should be right now. It needs to change.
Yeah. And look, I think that she's being vocal. And, she's not just speaking for the crypto community. She's speaking for the community that has looked at the SEC under Gary Gensler and under other chairmen and says this has been a sheriff that's too big for his britches, right? He just, just the ego is just through the roof and just operating in a way that is ultimately, stifled innovation. And it's put America behind as a hub for digital asset innovation and allowed countries like Dubai and Singapore to jettison ahead with little competition from countries that usually dominate industries like the United States. So all of this is finally the good thing is that if you're new to crypto, there's still a lot of growth to happen. We're still very, very early, and a lot of that you can thank Gary Gensler for, with keeping his foot on the brakes for people like you to finally get in and understand crypto much later on. Started in 2009 with the release of Bitcoin, but there are some bigger institutions that are getting on the ship right along with you. So don't feel like you're alone. There's going to be a lot of people who are getting into crypto, getting into Bitcoin around the same time you are. And here's one of them. Here's an example. World's largest custodian bank, BNY Mellon, is close to rolling out custody services for spot Bitcoin ETF funds, says Bloomberg. So this is one that actually directly is a result of what we just heard there. They may have made this decision because of the clarity that was brought in that congressional hearing. BNY won't have to follow SOB 121. That was the rule that they were discussing there for crypto ETP clients. Banks recognize custodied crypto on balance sheets under the rule. So this is potentially a very big breakthrough. This could be followed by other banks similar to BNY, and this could give Coinbase a run for their money. Coinbase up until now has been far and away, dominant in market share for custodying Bitcoin. And so if BNY starts to get into that game and custodying crypto to provide ETFs and custodying ETFs to provide exposure to Bitcoin, that could be very, very bullish. I'm sitting here thinking, what's going to happen to my Coinbase shares? Because BNY Mellon is a much, much bigger institution. They're trusted by some very big wallets. I shouldn't say wallets because that has a specific meaning in crypto. They're trusted by some very big funds, meaning pension funds, meaning bond managers, and they could potentially crush Coinbase if they wanted to. My early instinct is that they probably won't. Why? No. Because BlackRock has too much invested in Coinbase as a future of crypto custody. So, regardless, this is very bullish. Tim, what are your thoughts here on this one? I think BNY is actually one of the oldest banks in the United States as well.
Yeah, I ultimately here what it really says to me is just another opportunity for allocation into Bitcoin, for adoption into Bitcoin. This is a big headline that a lot of people who are very wealthy individuals who are looking to invest their hard-earned money and to protect that wealth are going to say, all right, I've been listening to people talk about Bitcoin for a while, but now it's time to operate. My bank, my investment firm is allowing me to do it. It's time to move forward. This is bullish. I don't think it's crushing to Coinbase. I think this is one of those things that there's enough pie to pass around to a lot of people to get a piece. Something to monitor, definitely something to watch. But BlackRock, unless BlackRock abandons Coinbase, Coinbase is not in trouble whatsoever.
Correct. And I think it's like 6 of the other ETF issuers, including VanEck, who makes this awesome hat that I have. But so lots of bullish news today. There's not really a single bearish story that we've covered, other than the fact that Gary Gensler is still the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Everything right now is still pointing to the upside. I want people to still be extremely optimistic about a bull market. The bull market is coming. Mm-hmm. The volatility along the way, though, is going to still be a little chaotic. Again, pullback probably coming in today. We're seeing a little bit of it happen this morning from highs last night around 64,800. We almost got to 65,000, but we got rejected, and now we're cooled off pretty dramatically over $1,000. Don't be surprised to see that continue a little bit more. Why? Because the bull market is here. It's ready, but it's not triggered just yet. Get a little bit of a dip, buy that dip. That's what the whales are doing. That's what these institutions are doing. That's what all these new wealthy investors are looking for. You, the retail investor, should be looking to do the exact same thing. We call that here in the community being a sucker fish. You can complain about whales and how big they are and how they eat all the food, or you can be a sucker fish and you can attach yourself to that whale and make all of the same moves that they do. That's what I choose. But with that said, guys, it is going to wrap up today's stream. Make sure to smash the like button on the way out if you enjoyed the episode. If this was your first time here, thank you so much for choosing Investing Bros. Smash subscribe as well so you don't miss any of our content. We'll be live again today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our full afternoon show. With that said, love you guys. See you this afternoon. Adios.